Hey everybody, if you tuned into this video, that must mean you're interested in starting your own weight loss journey. I've used keto to lose over 90 pounds and I would love to guide you through the keto process. I do it a little differently than other people. I believe that whenever you're learning a new skill, you should take baby steps. So we'll start with the basics and we'll just keep adding on new skills. I find that this is the best way to do it so it doesn't become overwhelming. So let's dive into this. Hey everybody, I'm Nora and you're watching Norielori's Keto and Health. I am so excited to share my experience with you to help you on your journey. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the basics and we're going to build off of them. This way it keeps it simple but not overwhelming, because if you get overwhelmed, you probably won't even get started. All right, so my first piece of advice would be research, and then do some more research. Keto is fairly simple, but there is a learning curve to keto because there's some other components that come into play. So definitely research, and this video is your first step in researching. The next thing is you really got to have a game plan. What do I mean? You need to have a game plan on what are you going to do when you start having some cravings so you don't cave in and potentially have a cheat meal. What are you going to do for holidays, birthdays, and stuff like that? If you're an emotional eater and you have something that triggers that emotional eating in you, what are you going to do instead of going and eating like you normally would? So I'm going to put up here in the cards a video that I did. It's called 8 Things to Consider Before You Start Any Diet, and maybe that'll help you come up with a tool bag to help you through some of these things. So the next thing that I want to mention is do not compare your journey to others. Your journey is completely unique to you. You're going to see people who's going to lose fast, and you're going to see other people who lose slow, and maybe someone who's in the middle. I just want to point out that there is several things that could affect your journey, be it hormones, medications, sleep, stress, if you've been a yo-yo dieter, or your metabolic health of when you begin. So just keep in mind your journey is unique to you. Don't get demotivated because you see other people doing better than you or you think they're doing better than you. You have your own things going on with you, and we should celebrate all losses and approach this with grace. We talked about we need to research and don't compare our journeys to others. Now let's talk about the basics of keto, and that is often 3 macros: fat, protein, and carbs. This is the basics, right? So I'm going to break down each macro and give you some information and why we do this the way that we do. With the very first macro being fat, it has to be 75% of your calories. And you're like, but Nora, that's a lot of fat. We've been taught not to eat a lot of fat. It's really not as much fat as you think. Fat grams is 9 calories per fat gram. 9. Protein and carbs is 4 calories per gram. So it's more than double those other 2 macros. So it's pretty easy to get your fat macros in. I also consider fat a lever. In the beginning, we're going to push that lever forwards for 3 reasons. 3. The first one being is with the absence of sugar, we have to have fat because those are the 2 fuel sources our body runs off from. And we're wanting our body to start at the cellular level, converting things over from sugar burning to fat burning. And that takes 4 to 8 weeks. That is what's called fat adaptation. When our body can efficiently burn fat, we are fat adapted. So number 1, we have to do that so that our body can make those changes. Number 2, fat actually keeps us full longer. It's satiating to us. 3 is it actually helps curb cravings. So this helps you in the long run. But here's the fun part. Once you're fat adapted, we can pull that lever back just a little bit. We can decrease the dietary fat coming in so that our body starts efficiently using the fat stores we have in our body. And I don't know about you, but I got plenty of those still. So if you are still eating high amounts of fat, your body is going to use that dietary fat first before your body fat. So that's why I say it's a lever. We're going to crank it back so that it'll start using our own fat stores. So our second macro is protein. This is not optional, people. This is your goal. 20% of your calories needs to come from protein. This is not high protein. This is moderate protein. And it's got to be a goal because every function in our body uses protein. To build muscle, protein. Build hair, nails, protein. And if you do not get enough protein in, you're going to have potential hair loss and you're probably going to lose some muscle mass. And that is not what we're aiming for here. We want to support your body in the best way. So absolutely, protein has got to be a goal. If you're not a big meat eater, you may want to substitute in some pea protein. And if you're a vegetarian, you definitely need to look up your plant proteins and find a way that you can get in those protein goal for you. And the third macro being carbs. 5% of our calories or 20 grams total or net carbs is what our carb allowance is. Some people can get away with just a little bit more, but let's just, for simplicity, use 20 grams. Obviously, we got to keep the carbs low. That way our body doesn't revert over to using sugar again because we want it to use fat. It's a cleaner source of fuel for our body. Also, carbs is not an essential macro at all. You can totally live without carbs, 100%. It is not essential. There is not a process in your body that takes carbs. I know, sounds weird, right? Because we're taught to eat carbs to keep our blood sugar stabilized. In the beginning, if you're diabetic and you have highs and lows, you're going to have to keep some things on hand to help stabilize it. As time goes by, those highs and lows dips are going to be less and less. If your body becomes low in carbs, your liver will actually make glucose. Yep. And I'll give you an example of that. In the morning, if you ever tested your sugars, blood glucose in the morning, you might have heard of the dawn effect. That is actually the body's process of waking you up. Your adrenals release some cortisol, and that cortisol triggers your liver to produce some glucose. That is actually how the body wakes up in that process. So in the beginning, your liver is probably used to producing a lot more glucose than what it really needs to. So we see these weird dawn effects with high blood glucose readings in the morning, but as time goes by, you're going to see them get better. But that's just a perfect example of how the liver produces glucose when it needs it. So this is the baseline for keto. So let's build off in this at this point. Have you all learned how to read a nutrition label yet? Yeah, it's got some very important information here, from what the serving size is to the calories, the total fat, total carbs, and protein. And have you figured out if you're a total carb person or a net carb? I'll show you how to break down net carbs here in just a minute. And then let's not forget the ingredient list, because you may look at this and go, total carbs, where's all that sugar coming from? Because when you look at the ingredients, they like to have a lot of fancy words for sugar. There's over 100 words for sugar. And marketing-wise, they become quite creative to come up with these words. So if you haven't learned what these words are, I'm going to insert a picture right here that's got some of the most common words for sugar. So go ahead and give that a look. Yeah, did you notice they had some really fancy words there? And then they like to market, diabetic foods or no sugar or low sugar. And then they use some of these sugar alcohols or substitutes that can spike your sugar higher than what if you had just ate regular sugar. So you need to be on the lookout for those too. So here's a list of those. Yeah, so now you're kind of like scratching your head, like, what should I be looking for, right? All right, so what you need to be looking for is more plant-based sugars and sugar alcohols. And of course, I've got a picture for that here too. Take a look at this. So at this point, you kind of have to make a decision if you want to do total carbs or net carbs. And so let's talk about that. Most people can get away with doing net carbs, up to 20 net carbs. But then there's some people who can't get away with that. And some of those people might be if you're severely diabetic or been diabetic for a long time, if you have metabolic syndrome, if you've been a yo-yo dieter, some autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's or even just thyroid issues, you may have to do total carbs. So when you look at an ingredient label, the very first thing you're going to see is the total carbs. Don't worry, I'm going to show you a picture and I'm going to show you how to calculate net carbs. I'm just kind of giving you the audio right now. So if you did net carbs, you would take the total carbs, you would minus the dietary fiber, and then if it has any sugar alcohols in it, you would minus that. Now, not all sugar alcohols are created equal and they are not subtracted the same. But for simplicity, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to insert in a picture to show you how to calculate net carbs. You've been doing keto for a minute, or been doing your research, or just joining some groups. You probably heard words like standard keto, strict keto, lazy keto, and even dirty keto, right? So they're all keto, and you have the potential to lose weight on any of them. I might do all three in a week, just to be honest. I love my ice cream, and it's considered lazy keto. So let's go ahead and break those down for you. Standard or strict keto is pretty much the same. You may track or you may not track your macros. But basically what this is going to be is going to be 4 to 6 ounces of meat with some fat. It might be butter on your vegetables, butter on a piece of meat, maybe some cream cheese, olives, a nut butter, something like that. And then a vegetable too, and that's going to be what your meals kind of look like. That way you're kind of getting them all in. If you tend to fall to the lazy side, that would be something like you'd still be eating what we considered strict keto, but maybe you're having some ice cream here and there, or maybe a protein bar or a fat bomb, something like that. Something that gives you a little bit of variance that will help you stay on track. And you may just track your carbs and not your other macros. You see what I'm getting? Lazy, you got some variety. You only track in one macro. Dirty, on the other hand, could be more of the lazier side, but you could also have other things like fast food things, okay? And the reason why fast food is considered dirty is because you don't know how they're cooking it. You don't know what they're adding into it. But let's say you're on the go or you're on the road a lot, and eating out is part of your lifestyle. So absolutely, you do not need to change that. You have fast food options. You just don't have control of what's going into those products. So maybe you pick up a Cobb salad from Chick-fil-A, or at Burger King, picking up a Baconator or something like that with no bun. Those are always options. And then some people even do dirty as long as it fits my macros, I can eat it. So maybe they might eat half of an apple. I'm trying to be good. I don't really consider that keto, but some people do that. If it fits my macros, I eat it and I'll probably still lose weight. You may even start keto on the lazy or dirty side, and then as you lose weight, you'll find out that your weight kind of slows down and you have to go to the stricter side of keto. Just keep your expectations real. Things like this happen. Another big suggestion to help keep keto simple is to learn 3 to 5 meals that you can make that's keto. Meals that you don't mind having over and over, because when you first start keto, like I said, there is a learning curve to it. You're learning about your macros, what it's about, these different styles. So if you can just focus on 3 to 5 meals, that helps keep keto from becoming overwhelming, because once it becomes overwhelming, we start to kind of give up. So we got to talk about electrolytes. I think electrolytes is just as important as what your ketogenic macros is to get you into a ketogenic state. From day one, you need to start incorporating electrolytes into your diet. Just because keto is a natural diuretic, you're going to notice that the first weight that you lose is going to be water weight. So you're going to be peeing a lot. And what you're going to be peeing out basically is going to be water and your electrolytes. So we need to be very mindful of our electrolytes and try to incorporate them into our daily diet every day. I don't care if it's just salting your water, making soul water, maybe even making like a keto raid, which would be like salt and cream of tartar and things like that to get those electrolytes in. You could also do Powerade Zero or Gatorade Zero for electrolytes, but just be a little mindful. They're sweetened with sucralose, and not everybody does real good on sucralose, because you're going to know that because you've seen that in my picture of sugars that can affect you. So just be mindful of that. And a lot of times people will get keto flu in the beginning of their keto journey. And honestly, it is just an electrolyte balance besides the carb withdrawal. So if we can avoid things like headaches, nausea, fatigue, muscle cramps, spasms, and heart palpitations, I think we should. It's just a matter of time before you're going to experience some of those symptoms. So yeah, figure out your electrolytes. There's lots of electrolyte powders out on Amazon and in the market that you can also use to incorporate into your daily regimen too. Put your scale away before you become a slave of the scale. I do not think that daily weigh-ins are motivational at all. A lot of people can become very unmotivated if they weigh in one day and see a loss and the next day they see a gain. It's probably the fastest way that you could become unmotivated. It may even lead you to have a cheat meal, and that cheat meal could lead into a binge. And I'm all about doing things to keep you motivated. And I don't think that the scale works that way, because there's going to become a point where you're going to come to a stall or a plateau, and you're not going to see change on that scale, but you might miss the changes on your body. So just because that scale's not moving doesn't mean there's not other things going on in your body. So I think that weekly weigh-ins and even monthly weigh-ins is even better. You see in bigger numbers, it's showing you a better trend of what your body is doing than what weekly weigh-ins is. So something else that I got 2 things that I think is a little more motivating than weigh-ins. The first one is take before pictures and progress pictures. I know. You're like, I don't want to remember what I looked like when I started this journey. This is why I'm taking this journey. I know. I've been there. I didn't take the before pictures. Now I scour my Facebook looking for pictures of me at my heaviest so that I can do transformation pictures. Don't be like me. Go ahead and do it. Because you can see a huge difference in just 1 month. Just imagine what 2, 3, 4 months is going to look like. Seeing that before picture and what you're looking like now is a huge motivator. You visually see the progress happening. So you would want to take a picture of your face, a frontal with your arms out, a side profile, and the back. And you'd want to take them in the same positions. So kind of take note where you marked it. That way you're not further or closer, because that can sometimes impact what those pictures look like. And you want to wear something that shows your shape. You could also do maybe a shirt that was tight on you, and then each month also take a picture in that same shirt and show how it's getting looser on you. So those are a couple of ways to do that. Another thing that I think works really well to track true progress is to do measurements. I have a soft measuring tape here, but if you don't have a soft measuring tape, just take string, put it around whatever you're measuring, and where it meets, cut it, label it, neck, on that date. And then each month you'll come in and mark where it's at. Obviously your neck, you're not going to see a lot of differences in the beginning, but you're going to see a lot of differences in the areas of your bust, waist, and hips. Now, it's up to you where you want to take those measurements at. You may even want to include your arms, your legs. I actually measure my apron. I take it from where the fold begins up to my navel, because your mind will play dirty, rotten tricks. Okay? Like, the stomach area is generally one of the last areas that you lose weight in. And you could think that the apron is not getting smaller, but it could be, because it tricked me, and that's why I started measuring it. And I am seeing that it is actually getting smaller. So completely up to you where you want to measure. Do it monthly. If you do the string method, you could hang it up on your wall and you visually can see your progress. That is a big motivator, to see that progress when you get down in the dumps. In the end, it's just all data. We're at the point where we're going to put all of this information together. If I was to start keto over again, this is the way I would do it. And so this is why I'm suggesting this, and the reasons why I broke this down the way that I did. Once you learn what are keto foods, there's lots of lists out there that you can find out what are keto foods. You would go and purchase these keto foods. The first 2 to 3 weeks, I would not worry about tracking macros, calories, or any of that. Your body is adjusting. I would eat when you're hungry, eat till you're full, and if you need a snack those first 2 to 3 weeks. Because the first 2 to 3 weeks, that's when you're going to, potentially have a keto flu. You're definitely going to be having a lot of cravings. And this is the time that you could give up before you even got started. So, this is like your free time. You're going to be focused on 3 to 5 meals that you know, and make them over and over to get comfortable with them. Once you get past that hump, you're going to start to see that the cravings are not as much. You're going to feel very comfortable where you're at. So at this point, you would make the decision if you're going to want to track your macros or track your carbs. You don't have to. There's a lot of people out there that don't. And then there's other people that are very comfortable tracking, need to want to see this. Then you can start tracking and seeing where your meals need to be. The main objective at this point would be having heartier meals, making sure you have enough fat to get from one meal to the next, and take that snacking out. If you're one of those that loves to snack and loves to have desserts, you may want to consider putting those with your meal, okay? That way you're still having those type of foods, but we are starting to control our insulin spikes, all right? And then at this point, you would also start to branch out and learn new recipes and add to your meal ideas for keto. And you'll definitely be able to start to learn your body when you need electrolytes and how much electrolytes you're going to need. So that's how I would do it, and just build on it and research as you go, just so that it doesn't become so overwhelming. And just because something worked for one person doesn't mean it's going to work the same way for you. You're in your trial period. You're going to find out if something is working for you or it's not. You're going to start learning if it makes you feel a certain way, if it causes you inflammation. We only learn by making mistakes on our way. So get out there, get started with your journey, and feel confident that you're doing this in steps and building off it. I hope I was able to keep this as simple as possible and show you how to build off in one of the tips and suggestions, how you build off in them. I know throughout this, I've really talked about not overcomplicating it. And my main reason for that is I have seen people really overcomplicate some of the simplest things. They get flustered. They get all this information coming from them in different ways. And it can become easily overwhelming because you do have a learning curve. I have a motto: your journey begins with you. Don't overcomplicate it, or you won't take the first step of your journey. And I think you've seen that throughout this video. And it's something that I've lived by. Another thing I want to put out there for you is you need help or motivation, or you have questions, don't hesitate to contact me. My email is down in the description. You can also DM me on Instagram. I am more than happy to help you along your journey. And if I can just help put things in perspective or make it a little bit easier for you, I will feel that what I'm doing is worth every minute that I put into these videos for you. So without further ado, I wish you the best of luck. Bye.